We are back and we are blue, talking about When You're Blue, the EP, the new EP from Scott Baker Graham, produced by the great James K. quote Skullface end quote Ultra pain in the
That's
ass.
me.
Welcome. Um,
I'm really proud of the CP. Let me get out front and say that
why are you proud of this EP?
because I worked on. I it feels like there's a bow on it to me. It feels like it's
Mm,
telling a story. I know I've been going on and on about that lately, but it feels like there's a story arc. It feels like it has an opening. It feels like it has some twists, and it. I also love when an EP or an album has a sense of closure. So
mm,
while I've had my own special time with each song, mixing it and producing it, that was something as I was mastering everything together. I was like, I got really into that mindset of like a story arc
mm,
and how fulfilling it can be to give like a sense of closure, um, and different emotions. So that was the part that gave me a lot of joy, was the storytelling part of it.
mm. Yeah, I remember when you said that, and that was interesting to me because it still feels so fragmented to me because I the way all of these songs happened like over time, you know?
It's natural. Even
Yeah,
my
yeah.
albums, I feel the same way because I can't help but be transported to where I was mentally or physically when
Mm,
I did something, but I definitely know that feeling. But I thought the sequencing was super obvious because start big and somber, you can't lose. But I definitely know that feeling. And it can be um a little bit of an undertaking just sequencing an album. It's something I don't think gets talked about enough.
mm. Yeah, yeah,
Really
yeah.
just creating again, like I think with movies and like scripts and anything like that, isn't there like the main um like you have the hero, you have the world building, and then you have some sort of problem that the
Hmm.
hero has to overcome. And then
Hero journey, yeah.
yeah, the hero's journey. And like there's probably a few different versions of that, but that's kind of what I was thinking of. And also being that I had sequencing on my mind lately anyways, just listening to like classic albums and being like, how are they
Mm,
doing this? How are they handling this thing? Where do they like, how does the album start in its feeling and tone? What does it do? Because I mean, you're also trying to keep people's attention, you know?
mm.
I don't know. I think it's an art form, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely something that I am like totally um excited to turn over to you each time because I have no idea usually. Although I think I'm starting to pick up on your ideas because when we were talking about now looking towards a an album down the road, you agreed with my first Perry,
I thought it made a lot of sense, and I
but
had
I think
already
it was a
made a
James K.
list.
Ultra list, really.
I don't even really, it's hard to explain what my criteria is for something like that, but I don't, if you have an eclectic sound as an artist, ideally you're not, I mean, see, there's no rules really. There's
Mm,
albums where I'm like, and I also still think in terms of side A and side B, even though,
mm.
you and I don't put out records,
Yeah, I
but
know,
I
but
still
yeah,
like
it's
that.
fun to think like that. Yeah.
Well, if you've got 10 tracks, you want track one to be a grabber and you want track five to be a grabber, no question.
Mm,
But I like to particularly not have things go super aggressive and then super, you know, pull back a lot and then keep. I don't like that. I don't like
mm,
being thrown back and forth. Like sometimes I'll listen to albums that have like heavy songs and there's instrumentals, like light instrumentals between each track. I'm like, that's not how my brain wants this.
mm,
So it's you're coupling the overall like presence and perceived volume of songs a bit. So there's a lot of different ways to look at it. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I feel like I feel like we're kind of building something. We're going into more eclectic territory, I think now. Don't you think? Seems to be getting more eclectic than the last album.
I think there's less rules and I think the
Yeah,
productions
maybe.
are more dense.
Mm,
That's been the part that I've been, because I was just talking about this the other day. I was Sometimes some of your arrangements are bold and simple and like I'm just like I want to preserve that.
mm,
But lately I've been like, what if I made this just enormous and
mm.
dense?
Yeah,
And that has been really rewarding, I
yeah,
think.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
it
Oh, for me too. Yeah.
yeah, so that has been the biggest difference in the last few months, I would say. Yeah, sometimes I've just been doing more and then just showing it to you, just in terms of mixing and
Yeah,
being
yeah.
like, "What do you think?" In general, I've been trusting my instincts a bit more, and but you know me, if something doesn't land, I'm like, "Yeah, you're probably right."
Well, that rarely happens, we should say, with us. It's almost always like, yeah, try this or that. I'm usually like, I love it.
I think fortune favors the bold sometimes, man,
Yeah.
and I think just trying something semi-aggressive, you never know what it's going to yield. But also, I'll be listening to other music, and I'm just like, I'll just get a little idea or
Mm,
something. I don't know. It's usually like I get a hold of the song. It's pretty obvious to me what it needs in
mm,
terms of just filling things out. And then I'm like, but what do I want? What do my
mm.
ears desire? What would keep my interest here? And that's just from the sound design aspect, I've been getting more layered with everything. I don't know. I also think
Yeah.
my overall grasp of percussion in regards to what works well with how you write has gotten, sounds like I'm patting myself on the back, but I don't know.
Well, you should.
Drums,
Yeah.
man. Drums are fun.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, also, you really filling in my, you know, my lack of, or my, maybe even my laziness in that area.
Well, resources to a
Yeah,
degree,
and
but
resources. Yeah,
also
yeah.
it's when I really like a song. See, that's the thing though. The way you will demo your material, it's like it is kind of stripped down. And that isn't that kind of the test of a good song? Like some
Yeah,
of the best
sort
songs, you
of.
could
Yeah,
play
yeah,
them like polka or a pop song or an
yeah.
acoustic, and it still holds together. So I like being able to hear it with accompanying instruments,
Mm,
but hearing like kind of the essence of the song. And then I'm like, what would propel this song forward? And
mm.
God knows I've got everything at my fingertips. You can't see the guitars, but
But one thing I think that you're doing or we're doing together on these songs is even if it's like things are getting dense, but there's something that's like the star of the show for that song. You know what I mean?
I
Like
always think like that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, really? That's interesting because I don't know if I've ever said that to you before, but I always think that way too.
Other than like, well, sometimes it is the vocals.
Yeah, but I
I
mean
find,
musically, even just musically, yeah.
I find with songs, usually other than the vocals, there's one sound, one element, one something that is like kind of doing the heavy lifting. Maybe not in terms of volume, but just in terms of like, oh, that's super integral to
Yeah.
the way this song works. Sometimes it's like the bass. Sometimes it'll
Let's
just be a
take it song by
sound.
song. Let's take it song by song. At least and the ones that
Do it.
people haven't heard before and then and talk like that because I think that's a cool way to talk about the
Let's do
songs.
it.
Yeah.
So blue.
When you're blue.
When you're blue,
What did you think when you got this song? For
I
me.
loved how playful it was because
Mm.
just like I mentioned earlier, if whoever you are watching, you watched the other one. Um, I don't I don't feel like there's enough playfulness
Mm.
in dark wave, goth, synth pop, dark synth pop, whatever you want to call it. And think like Love Cats by The Cure or something like that.
Mm, hmm
That's kind of where my headspace was when I heard it. But I knew it needed maybe more instrumentation.
mm.
I didn't know what I was gonna do on it. And but like I'm going like this while I'm listening to it, and I'm just like, this is doing something, and I don't know how to explain it. And when did I suggest the piano? I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure I
yeah, yeah,
did.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And I was just
You
like,
said you heard you were walking around and it just came into your head.
I felt like I could hear it for
Yeah.
sure. And I was like, I want
This is this piano
playful
part that like
piano.
threads through the whole thing. That's like so gorgeous.
It's so non-intrusive but so big sounding. I was really really happy with how that piano turned out because it's warm but it's big, and it kind of mimics what you're doing vocally at times and then weaves into other things. Sometimes it's just doing really
Mm,
simple walks up
hmm
and down and I'm like, but it reminds me of Love Cats, like that kind
mm,
of playfulness. And that's why I was excited about it because I feel like the vast majority of yeah, I mean, I have nothing against super I'm so dark, I'm so mysterious type music, but I'm not often or always in that mood. And
mm,
I felt like this was you showing, because we all of us that make music, we have like a few different sides, I think.
mm,
And this one I was like, I don't think we've quite done this voicing of a
mm.
song yet.
Yeah.
So that's what I thought about it. And once I got the piano down, I was like, all right, this is special. Also, it's a very full sounding song. Like it sounds really nice and full in earbuds. And that was a big thing I was chasing. I wanted a lot of bass,
Mm,
but yeah. And the vocals are they're not quite dry, but they're just there. And
mm,
I don't know. That was one of those ones where after I got the piano done, all of the mixing decisions pretty much made themselves.
mm.
It was kind of obvious to
It's
me what
actually, I
should
didn't
be.
think about it. It's another one where it's just similar to Consumer, where the music is playful and the lyrics are a bit of a bummer.
I kind of thought it was a bit like I did have a brief moment where I was like, this is kind of like his Petrified in a way, because Petrified is very, the lyrics are like a little downtrodden, but
Hmm.
hilariously so. And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, well,
I love the
may it be
synth.
my petrified.
Please, Billy and Mandy. You need Billy and Mandy in a reel. But yeah, so it was the sing-songiness of the chorus and doing the piano that I just find it very, very listenable. So it was I enjoyed working on that one a lot.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to sound extremely self-serving, but well, one thing I love about doing music with you is that, well, first of all, I feel like we have a band, you know. I don't really feel like a solo artist, you know, because I feel like we work together, so it's so such an integral part of it. But because of us working on it together and what you do, I can always enjoy listening to my own songs, you know.
I
And
I
sometimes I get sick of them, but I haven't gotten sick of When You're Blue yet. It's just like you said, it's always enjoyable to listen to.
First of all, I'm jealous of that little bit of separation that you get
Mm,
because I know exactly what you're talking about. And when I listen to my stuff, I'm just like, what's this sad bastard on about today? Like I like my material very much,
mm,
but like I'm not like I'm critical. I'm extremely critical of
mm,
my output. And having a little bit of a divider, kind of like how Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross work these days,
mm,
where it's like it's just a melding of minds. It's basically a band. I imagine that their workflow and maybe not so much their actual workflow, but like their state of mind and the way they work together is probably pretty similar
mm,
to because a lot of times
mm.
whoever's working on the song, we take it as far as we can, and then we're just like, can you you hand it over to
Yeah,
me,
yeah.
and then I'll go as far as I can, and I'm like, all right, I need I need notes or you to tell me how amazing I am at my job, whichever one you want to do. And that's it's the
Either one
back
will
and
do.
forth.
Yeah.
It's the back and forth that also comes with affirmation that things are going
Mm,
well. So it's a little bit like,
yeah.
yeah, I really enjoy it a lot. And I would yeah, thanks for letting me do it, man.
Well, thank you for doing it. Whew. Um, what's the next one that's not a repeat?
Believe that's not a repeat. I think that's gonna be only reason,
Oh yeah.
isn't that?
Yeah. Yeah, this is a interesting one. This is a collab between Everything Is Nothing. Um, and he I don't know if you've listened to much of his music, but
A little bit, yeah.
yeah, it's like 1 second it's like it's like synth pop something going on, and then it's just like total screaming, and I mean all these really like dynamic elements. And then on his this EP he put out, Soak, he just had this gorgeous instrumental, like I don't even know where it came from. And I was talking to him about it. He's like, yeah. I instantly heard a vocal on top of it. And I like took the chance and reached out to him like, this is really weird, but would you be open to me just putting a vocal over your instrumental? I know that's really like kind of a
Listening to the
domineering
song,
suggestion.
I think that's awesome you did that. I feel like I'm approached for collabs, but I very rarely am just like, I mean, I used to. I mean, I think I approached you. I want to see, yeah, I did. But I think that's great you did that. But listening to it, I swear to you, you would never think that it wasn't written with those vocals in mind. I
Mm,
will go so far as to say that. Um,
that's funny.
I had a really good time mixing that one as well. And you would think because it was a pre-established instrumental, it might be tricky to just glue those vocals in. And some things were done, to have them complement each other. But then I was just like, oh yeah, this is great.
Mm.
This
Well,
is
I mean,
wonderful. And
it's more than that, that it was just done because he it was something about the intensity of this song and where he was when he did it, that
it's so
he
emotional.
erased all the tracks. So
Oh,
you were working with a mastered WAV file, and that was it. You didn't
I
have
had
stems. Yeah.
I had a single stereo file and what would you say, like four vocal tracks, five vocal
Yeah,
tracks?
four vocal tracks. Yeah.
And I knew I could do it. I was like, again, just seeding the vocals into, because that's how a lot of like rap and hip hop producers or mixing engineers work. They often have a
That's
beat
true.
that's
Yeah.
a single stereo file, and then they have a vocal. And I mean, it's not the most ideal, but it's a common occurrence.
Mm,
And there's a lot of different side chaining and whatnot tricks to have it not sound like it's just vocals over top of another track. Because that was my
mm.
only concern. I was like, I can't. I don't want that to sound like that. But it sounds,
Yeah.
they glue
But you were
together
very
perfectly.
success. Yeah, you were very successful in putting that
A
together.
lot of
Yeah.
it was just kind of building the instrumental up and around you, if that makes sense.
Mm,
A little bit of side chaining, and then just kind of, yeah, a little saturation. I felt like in that particular instance, I was just like, to, how do I say this? To give both the vocals and the instrumental a little bit of shared color, like some of the same kind of grit
yeah, like
made them sound like
they're
they
on the
were in the
same
same
planet,
world.
kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and that's kind of how I thought about it. It's subtle, but it worked great. And that song's beautiful. It's, would you call that a ballad? Is that a ballad?
I guess so. Yeah.
It's it's one of the more classical sounding pieces
Mm,
somehow.
hmm
If that's, I don't know if that's the correct term here, but it sounds like an orchestral composition.
mm,
So like I could imagine, being at like a black tie affair
mm,
with the string section and you're singing it like it just sounds like in a proper theater. It's that kind of thing.
mm.
So yeah, I
Well, I was really influenced by Dave Gahan of Depeche Mode because he's like a singer that will, it's like he will do vocals that are just out there, like without a net. You know what I mean? And that's kind of how this one was, It's like you really don't have anything to latch on to in that vocal melody. It's just like I'm I'm doing this. I'm flying this plane through here, and meanwhile things are just going like this underneath. And
And also something you've been doing more is like your kind of cascading vocals where
mm,
like things come in, another one comes in, and they just sort of they bricklay in
mm.
a way. And I've noticed that's been something you've done more in the last 4 or 5 months. And this
Oh,
is one of
interesting.
those.
I didn't even
I
know
did
that.
want
Yeah.
the mix for this one to be a little bit, I don't want to say conventional, but I was just like, I want this to just sound not experimental, just sound
Mm.
good,
Yeah, 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 yeah. That sounds great, man. Yeah, you did a great
Thank
job
you.
on that one.
I had fun.
And then the final one, I guess, is the reprise,
Surprise.
which is funny because I suggested that we do a reprise, and you said,
Get out of my head. Dude, I was I was like, dude, hand on my heart. I was gonna say this. I was going to make one and just send it to you.
ah,
And because I want again, I was in like storytelling mode and I wanted it to be like I was like, this would really put a bow on it. And then
mm,
this is one of like 3 or 4 occurrences in the last like 2 months where I've been like, did I already tell you this? Like you'll say, I think we should do this, and I'm just like, the fuck, get out of my head. Like I'll think
we're getting to
I
old
must have
married
told
couple
you. Yeah,
status.
I'll think I must have told him this, and you're just like, no. But yeah, I thought the reprise was a really good idea. I don't know what I was gonna do musically,
Yeah, I'm
but I was
curious
like,
what that would
this
have
is
been. Yeah.
better. I
Oh,
think
really?
it was
Okay.
gonna I think it was gonna be kind of dancey but kind of underwater sounding. And
Mm,
I think what you ended up doing and what I ended up doing to it is much more interesting. And it's hard to explain what's going on in that song. It's definitely
mm,
its own thing,
yeah.
even though it has the only thing it really shares is like the sentiment and the lyrics. And
Yeah,
that's what I
it's
really
weird.
liked
Yeah.
about it. We're not really recycling anything
Yeah, that's true.
from
But there is a walking piano part, but a different one.
true. That's true. That's true. And there's a lot of that's whereas with only reason I wanted things to be again not conventional, but like a little bit more by the book.
Mm,
With Reprise, I was just like, oh, we're going to sound design town.
hmm.
And that we did.
Yeah.
There's a lot of automated effects going on. There's layers of like it again, I don't remember how many vocals you sent me, but I know I duplicated them all like 4 or 5 times each. Just I was like, I'm gonna make my own Scott choir, which I often do.
Yeah.
We could talk
Yeah.
about the other songs too. I mean, I don't know if you wanted to do that, being that I mean, I haven't been on the show in like a year and some change.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go through then it's We
We
Were
were
Always.
always.
Which maybe you could talk about you because you remastered all these too. These are not none of these are
I
just
did. I just wanted I wanted to see how tidy they could fit together. I mean, that's something I've been doing a little bit more with different artists I work with, just because, I mean, sometimes some artists they work in a very default way where most of what they send me is in that same realm.
mm,
Like it's really close, like Basavruk, Kevin, shout out Kevin.
yeah, yeah.
Hope to God I said the band name correctly.
Yeah. That's
Pretty sure I did.
Yeah.
Basavruk. Um, he's very consistent in the
Mm,
way he works, and I don't think I'm very consistent. I think I'm all over the place, but that's what mixing and mastering is for. You know what I mean? Just in terms of even like the volumes I'm working with, I'm like, I don't know, this one feels like it needs to be louder. So yeah, I did. Most of them did not get a facelift. in terms of remastering, but we were always, I was just like, I want it thicker. I want more low end. Whereas at the time when we were doing it, I felt like I could not get enough clarity. I just really wanted it to like, yeah, I just really wanted clarity and shine. And I felt like that was what was sounding good. And it does. But in the context of these songs, especially with Blue, I was just like, let's just give her a Brazilian butt lift. And
Yeah, because when you set the tone with when you're blue with
Blue,
that
yeah.
massive, massive bass,
It's crazy because
which is
that
so
song is,
gratifying.
it is. It's really interesting how thick that song sounds while still sounding, you know, uh, it doesn't beat you over the head. It's very subtle. It's very interesting.
Mm,
But yeah, so we were always, I just wanted to thicken it out, make it sort of match with the rest of the party. Most everything else is anything that was done is so subtle in terms of remastering that it's not even really, it's almost not even worth mentioning. And but most of it was just gentle volume leveling. You know, I want like half a dB more on this song, lower this one. Like, I mean, we're really going into fractions here.
mm,
But when I listen to a release, I like to set the volume and not mess with the volume again. I don't really want any surprises. I don't want anything, you know, no, don't go death metal song loud after a pop song on me or anything like that.
mm.
So yeah, for On We Walk, very subtle reshaping. I love that song very much. That synth, see, when we were talking about how certain songs have like a sound, and that
Mm,
sound is really like the anchor of the song.
hmm.
That arpeggiated synth
That
and
sparkly synth. Yeah.
oh my god, I love that sound. And I have several different types of echo going on,
Oh yeah,
so it
yeah,
just
yeah.
trails and like shimmers and like that glittery sound
Hmm.
that's out in the stereo field and
Yeah.
earbuds. That's my favorite thing about that one for sure. Vocals are great. Really, really enjoyed doing like sound design for that one because that one was one of those ones where I think the song was there. You know, by the time I got it, I was just like, I'm just gonna make it do what it's doing even better.
Yeah.
And I think Witch's Curse was pretty similar in that way, where I'm very proud of how full that song sounds. Um, I don't know, that song's gorgeous. So yeah,
Yeah,
like the
that's another one I don't really get tired of listening to, I have to say. I think
absolutely
also
not.
because Helena's singing on it and all the work you did on it, making it sound so huge. It's just like I can always listen to it and be like, I have friends, you know?
I just love the shape of that. Like just listening to it from like a mixing perspective, I just love the shape of it. It just sounds particularly polished to me. That one does. Like sometimes a song just wants to be quite just sturdy, simple, strong, and precise. And then
Mm,
sometimes a song wants to be just how I see it, kind of experimental, kind of going off in a direction. And I think particularly when you've got just a really strong song that has like a single sort of feel, I'm just like, well, let's not get go to Mars with the experimentation here. Let's, you know, just do a proper mix and have it sound really nice. And I think that's another thing that I've tried to hone in on, you know, as in terms of what a song needs, because sometimes you need all the bells and whistles because that's just really what keeps it interesting.
mm.
I would say that about my stuff in particular. I'm just like, well, that's an awful simple chord progression. Be a shame if somebody added a ton of hi hats. You know, knowing when to throw everything in the kitchen sink at it and knowing when to be like, no, just let it breathe.
Let it do
And
its thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, Witch's Curse breathes for me.
Mm.
What's your favorite song on the EP right now?
You know what I listen to the most is When You're Blue reprise, the reprise.
Yeah,
It's almost like a meditative thing quality to it or something, like where it kind of relaxes me, you know? And I just think there's so many beautiful things going on in there that and I really love how I mean, I always love our collaboration on things, but I feel like that was uh just like I don't know, something special about it, and how we were both thinking of the reprise and stuff like that. And the stuff you did on it too was so gorgeous that
I had, I had so much
yeah.
fun with the reverse reverb
Oh,
on
that,
that
yeah,
one.
yeah. And I
Yeah,
love that
yeah.
because you know what? That actually, I need to thank you. I meant to say that too, because that is a dream come true for me. I've never done that backward reverb vocal, and I've wanted to do that ever since I first heard, Pink Floyd, The Wall.
Oh, that's so. I was wondering, like, Pink Floyd. I listen to a lot of like death metal, deathcore, and hardcore, and it's actually used a lot in heavier genres
Oh, is that right?
where
Okay.
like the drums will do something and you'll hear a, and then the angry man will yell something angry, and then it'll go into something crazy. And there's a lot of really cool sound design stuff going on with modern heavy music,
Mm,
and it's almost absurd the level of polish that some of those
mm.
bands have these days, because it was pretty raw like 10, 15 years ago. But
Yeah. Yeah, that's
yeah,
true, man.
I had wanted to do something with reverse reverb with you that was like particularly bold
Mm.
for a little while. And I was like, I think this is the one. Like,
Yeah.
and it's one of those things that's so funny, because if you're watching this and you're into production or mixing music and you've ever done like the reverse reverb thing, even saying it is kind of hilarious. Reverse reverb, reverse reverb. The wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable. It's like you you have the vocal that you want to do that to, you reverse it, you put reverb on it, then you print it, and then you reverse it again. I believe that's all correct. And I've done it
Oh,
dozens
really?
and dozens and dozens of times,
Yeah.
but every
I didn't
time I
even
do it,
know
I'm
that.
just like, yeah, because you're reversing the vocal, adding the reverb, so there's a tail there.
Mm,
Then you're reversing it again, so it's sweeping up into what you're
into it.
saying
Oh,
instead of
okay.
being after you're saying. And
Yeah.
it's a simple concept, but even explaining it, doing it every single time I do it, every time I go to do it, I'm just like, is this right? And
But then how
yeah,
would they, you know, how would they do it on tape when they had tape?
it's funny. I was just talking to Adam Cam, shout out Adam, my friend from across the pond, and we were talking about our experience owning reel to reel tape machines, which we were both like, this is hell. I'm glad I don't have, I'm glad I have digital, because like you have to take unbelievably precise care of one of those machines to get it even
Mm,
close to being reliable on a level of time.
mm,
Like, because there's wow and flutter and all those, like tape moves and breathes, man. Like it slows down,
mm,
speeds up. But I'm sure that they would have one machine doing that and recording it, so that they could like have a feedback loop between the two tape machines and basically do
mm.
what I do in all of 2 minutes, but it probably took
All
some
day.
poor engineer like an entire week or something. I've watched people like remove single words from performances that were done
Mm,
via tape, and I'm just like, that is an absolute nightmare.
mm.
I love the sound of tape, but give me the digital workflow any day.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that with sound design, where the other thing about it is you need to just commit to it, because you're printing that reverb on there.
Mm,
Um, so you're like, let's see if it works. And that was one where I particularly, because often that's a subtle effect, but with this one I was like, I want it smoky, big. I want you
mm.
to hear it coming like a train. So by the time,
So
by the time that the
gratifying.
vocal actually comes in, you pretty much know what letter the word is starting with. So yeah, I really enjoyed kind of being afforded the opportunity to do that effect in a bold and out front way.
Yeah. Yeah, because I don't even think I'm like the the kind of novelty of listening to that is not worn off on me yet. I can still think, oh, that was cool.
And it's so funny because when I have one of those tricks, I'm like, don't overuse it. Don't go overboard with it. Actually, consumer has the reverse snare.
Yeah, that's right. The start at the first
Yeah,
thing in the song.
I do abuse reverse uh drums. Like I love reverse cymbal swells. I love
Mm,
reverse snares. It just sounds cinematic to me. But
hmm
again, I don't know, with stuff like that, you'll get in your head about it and you'll be like, am I doing this too much? Meanwhile, listeners don't know. They're just like they want you to put out a good song. That's not to say
hmm
anything about them noticing details.
mm,
I just have found that when it comes to being an artist and worrying about these types of things, they just want you to write a good song, man. That's all. I think the listener in general will forgive a lot if you just have a solid song that you put your heart into,
mm. Yeah.
even if you do reverse cymbal swells on every song. I don't know. That's again, a lot of that influence for me is from soundtracks. Like,
Mm,
cause like I don't really like surround sound very much, but sometimes it's cool. Like sometimes a movie is just great on IMAX, but like how stuff will go whoosh, like so you'll feel it like on both opposite sides of your head.
mm.
I love anything like that, and any chance to use that in a pop song, I'm in.
Oh man, what else do we talk about? I don't even know. Maybe we're done.
It might be.
Might be at the end of the show, folks. Well, I want to thank you because I was just thinking I was going to release a single, and you were like, you actually just one day said, well, da, 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 with the whole EP. And I was like, what?
I think I said
Well,
that assuming you were going to.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I assume this is part of an EP. And then on we went.
I think I just assume that everybody's doing all of the waterfall releasing and stuff that I'm doing. And most people are, but I mean, I don't know. I'm always trying to think 10 steps ahead. But yeah. And then
Mm,
it went from a 4 song EP to a 6 song EP in a matter of a week after that. So
yeah, yeah.
again, man, like the path of least resistance sometimes, like
It's just what it was
something
meant to
pulls you
be.
in a
Yeah.
direction, and you're just like, okay, and I try not to have my plans in regards to things like this too set in stone so that way I can kind of move with the current a little bit. I just refuse to get stressed out about this stuff anymore, man. Because scheduling releases, trying to work out things like that, even down to uploading music. People
Well,
don't know. People
I will
don't know
say,
how.
I don't know. I forgot if I said that to you. This is the most complicated upload I've
You
ever
did.
done.
You
Yeah.
did. I've never had a release with that many connections, like other things to link up.
Mm,
Um, I I mean, call me a baby, call me what you will, but even uploading an album that's just me, I'm just like, my adrenaline's going. Like, it's just, you don't want to mess up anything. You don't want to actually release it immediately. Like, there's stuff that goes into it, and you're just one person doing your best. And then what I love is like, you got everything right, everything's good. And then it goes, you'll get the red because you missed one thing, and then
mm,
you have to start over, or just
yep.
the routine like the upload screen for the release. I have to like scan it like 7 8 a dozen times and make sure that I didn't become that I'm not blind, I guess. Like
Mm,
I'm like, I read that correctly. I know how
mm,
words work.
yeah.
So I've been trying to make this year be like, don't stress about it, dude. It's there's already enough things in the whole realm of making music that you don't have control over. So just, you know,
Yeah. Well, thank you because I really enjoyed this process, and it's nice to have the EP,
I agree.
and it's nice to follow the James K. Ultra method of success, double EP releasing and then the album release that I'm following now.
It is what I've done pretty much twice. I don't know. It it makes sense to me. I think when you release music like that, you give yeah, I don't know. I think re-releasing songs with new material makes perfect sense to me in the current climate. And I think a lot of times people go, "Oh yeah, I like that song. I forgot about that song."
Mm.
And then they revisit it. I do that all the time when I see a Waterfall release. I know it's not for everyone, but I mean, go
But
through
you
it with
know,
an adult.
I never feel like when people do it, that's how I feel. My experience of it is I enjoy hearing the song and being, oh yeah, yeah, or something like we were talking about, On We Walk with Broken Hearts that, released near Christmas and maybe, it got less plays or something because of Christmas. Maybe more, we'll give people a chance to hear it again.
Did Mariah Carey steal your streams?
Yeah. Yeah.
Damn you, Mariah. But yeah, I mean, but you look at like bands like this isn't a new phenomenon. People kind of look at it sometimes like it is, but look at the Rolling Stones, man. How many times they've re-released Wild Horses,
Mm,
on different 45s, different records and stuff like that.
yeah.
Sometimes it's different versions, but I mean, it's been a thing for ages
Yeah.
to have songs reappear on albums or singles or EPs. I could see it eventually. You don't want to do it too many times. I like to give the songs a forever home at some point within the
Mm,
year that they
yeah.
came out. That's kind of how I think about it.
Yeah.
Eventually, they're
Yeah.
going to be on an album, and that's going to be the forever home in that context, and that's nice. But
I like that. Forever home. Yeah.
forever home, like it's a dog at the pound. Yeah, this album, she's a rescue.
Mm, yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Um,
some
well,
jokes write
bless you.
themselves, folks. Yeah,
Bless you.
bless you.
Love you.
Love you, man.
And
Appreciate you.
yeah, man. Look forward to everything you do next and everything we do next together.
Hell yes, my friend.
I look
It's
forward
a
to the next
pleasure.
time I talk to you. Always a pleasure.
Look forward to it. Love
Well,
you, brother.
thanks for doing this.